Hello everyone and welcome to another gear update. We're in lockdown here in South Africa with the coronavirus thing going crazy all over the world. I think I'm on day 3 of 21 days, so I'm a little bit fidgety. I'm cooped up here in the man cave, but it's a good opportunity to actually do some videos like this where I can chat through things. I'm planning to do stuff like reloading videos, hopefully. I'm planning to do my Airgun Ballistics 101 series, but today we're going to be looking at my 300 WSM. I know a lot of people have asked me to actually run through the setup and talk about what I've done to this rifle, because I bought it as a stock standard ticker and everything about it has changed. Like literally the only thing that's the same is the action itself. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm also going to tell you my thought process behind the 300 WSM as a cartridge and why I went with that. I guess this all started back in, was it 2018, or it could have even been 2017. It was a while back. I filmed a series called Vapor Trails. You might remember it, but essentially it was long range hunting. I went out to a place called the Karoo, which is a wide open space. Many game animals running around, awesome for long range shooting. And I went out with a guy called Nico, who's a good friend of mine, who is quite a few steps ahead of me when it comes to long range shooting and long range hunting. He's just got a lot of experience behind him, and I found myself learning a lot from him. But I took with my 260 Remington, which is this cartridge here. It's awesome for long range shooting, and to this day I think the 260 is the cartridge or the rifle that I would rely on the most if I was doing like a long range target or gong shooting competition. It's just got excellent ballistic characteristics, very high BC, good speed, very little recoil, so it's easy to manage and it's easy to keep on target. You can shoot it quite effortlessly. But what I found was, although the 260 Remington shooting a 143 grain ELDX was a very effective cartridge in putting an animal down at long range, I found that it didn't quite pack the kinetic energy terminal punch that I wanted it to. In other words, I would get really good shot placement on an animal, but it would run off a little bit further than I wanted. It would have that adrenaline running through its system, which can ruin the meat. And also, it's just not fun watching an animal run 100 yards before it plonks down. I know it was a good heart and lung shot, so there's nothing wrong with that. I've got no problem with that. However, I felt that for larger animals like wildebeest, kudu, animals that might be a little bit more difficult to put down at long range, I wanted something that was a little bit more forgiving. And after seeing what Nico was able to do at long range, I think he shot 2 fallow deer at like 700 meters plus, something like that, I decided that this was what I wanted to go for. Also, there was a moment where the last day of our hunt, we had 3 warthogs lined up, and we counted down and shot the 2 warthogs at the same time, and you can clearly see the 300 just packing a much bigger punch and just putting that warthog down more effectively. So I knew that I wanted to go for something, but I wanted to do some research first. I thought about a few different cartridges. One of them I was looking at was a 7mm short action Ultra Magnum, or 7 Saum. To this day, I think if I was going to go with something else, it would be that. However, the 7 short action Ultra Magnum is a little bit more difficult to get hold of, especially in South Africa. To find a rifle chambered in 7 short action Ultra Magnum, I had very few options, and the options that were available, I didn't really like the actions and the rifles that were available in that cartridge. And then also the barrel doesn't last quite as long as a WSM. I looked at a 7mm Rem mag, and I looked at a 300 Win mag, but both of those kick a little bit more than I would have liked. When it comes to recoil management and consistency, I want to be in control of my own rifle. And while those cartridges are both excellent long-range options, a Winchester Short Magnum is a way more modern cartridge. It's shorter, you're using less powder for the amount of performance you're getting. The sharper shoulders on the cartridge and the lack of the bolt at the back, it's just a more modern setup, and it's inherently accurate. It's easier to get a WSM to shoot well than it is to get a Rem mag or 300 Win mag to shoot well. And also you just get, with those modern characteristics, the powder that is burning inside the cartridge because of those sharper shoulders. It's just a more modern cartridge, and I felt like that was the direction I wanted to head. Plus, when you're shooting slightly lighter bullets, there's not much of a difference between a Win Mag and a WSM. Despite the WSM having a much smaller case capacity, the performance is almost there. So I felt that that was the right move for me, and I'm really glad I went with it. I will run through the WSM cartridge a little bit later and what I'm using in terms of reloading components, the bullet, the powder, the primer, the brass, all of that a little bit later. But just want to show you this comparison down here between the the three calibers that I currently own. The 22 to 50 is purely for varminting. I've got a light 50 grain VMAX. I think I've got like 36 grains of powder or 36.5 grains of powder in here. 260 Remington, 143 grain bullet, 39.5 grains of powder, and the WSM 63 grains of powder. So it's quite a nice variety here. I can kind of do everything with these three cartridges, and I feel very, very happy and comfortable with the three rifles I have. This one and those two behind me, I can kind of cover everything with these three, and I'm sure I'll want another one sometime in the future, but for now I feel really content. Right, so purpose, what do I want this gun to be used for? Because within the limitations of a 300 WSM, you can kind of do a lot with it. You can go with a super short compact rifle. You can go with an absolute cannon that's, you know, with a chunky barrel, long barrel, shooting very heavy bullets, very fast twist barrel. I wanted something in between. I want a rifle that I can shoot long range with, because what's the point of getting a long range hunting rifle if you can't shoot long range with it? But I didn't want a crazy, 30-inch long barrel. I wanted something that I could walk around with, something that I could chuck on the back seat of the truck. And although this is not, it's not a lightweight rifle, it's certainly not a cannon either. I didn't want to go for a 338 Lapua. If you're buying a cartridge like 300 WSM, you don't want to go overboard, and I feel like I've got a really good setup here. So let's run through the setup, starting with the action, because that's where it all began. I really like the ticker action. It's incredibly smooth, and I've got a ticker with my 22 to 50, and I just, there's nothing to hate about it. So I ended up buying a ticker 300 WSM in, I think it was a ticker T3X Hunter. It's the lightweight version with a wooden stock. Immediately took the stock off, immediately got the factory barrel removed. Nothing wrong with the factory barrel, but I wanted to shoot slightly heavier bullets. So I replaced the 24-inch factory barrel with a 26-inch Bartlein barrel. I bought the barrel from Bullet Central Africa. I believe they're based in Cape Town. I had it sent to a company called Trueworks in Bloemfontein. Trueworks reamed the barrel out for me, did all the gunsmithing work. They did an absolutely awesome job. They sent it back, and just really, really happy with, looking down the Bartlein barrel. It's probably one of the best barrel manufacturers in the world, Bartlein and Krieger. Bartlein barrel, just, you can see the smoothness difference between a Bartlein and the factory barrel. Really, really happy with that. And then what else did I add? I took the factory stock off. I added a GRS Warg. I don't know whether to call it a stock or a chassis, because it's kind of a hybrid between the two, but just really useful and beautiful setup. You've got what looks like a chassis fore end over here. It's got an M-lock fittings here, so I immediately put on a Picatinny rail in the front. I put on areas for sling studs. You can kind of put whatever you want on here. So I'll be able to throw this over my shoulder. I'll be able to move the bar pod wherever I want. I can actually put a bar pod that hangs from the top. It's got this rail in front, which is awesome. And then in terms of the back end here, what's nice about this is I can have the same hand grip at the back as I have on my other rifles, same cheek weld, same length of pull. I can set all three of my rifles up the same because they're all GRS stocks, and that consistency for me is very important. I want to be able to go from my 260 and come straight to the 300 and feel the same rifle in my hands, and it does feel exactly the same, so that's awesome. I added an Atlasworx bolt handle here. Just wanted something a little bit more chunky from the factory bolt handle, and I really like the feel of this Atlasworx. Again, I got this from G&G Varminting in Bloemfontein. They supplied me with this. The stock, I forgot to mention, has a bag rider on it, which I think is really, really helpful, just in terms of recoil management and keeping yourself still. That rifle rides straight back when you take a shot. There's no bouncing up and down. I just feel like the bag rider does make quite a big difference. So I'm very, very happy with it. I fitted a Sustac 20 MOA Picatinny rail just to give me a little bit more tilt for those long range shots, although to be honest I don't really need it because I now have the Element Nexus scope on top, which is actually a scope that I designed. You'll know by now that I've started up Element Optics along with Shane Keller, Ted Beer, and a lot of other guys in the optics industry who have been in the industry for many years, working with some of the best manufacturers in the world, some of the best engineers in the world, and this scope is very, very capable, particularly for long range shooting. It's got a zero stop, it tracks perfectly, glass is brilliant, and the reticle exactly how I like it because I designed the reticle. So I'm gonna be a bit biased there, but it's the perfect scope for my purposes. And I do like to shoot with the sunshade on if I'm taking long shots or if I'm at the range. There's no reason not to have it. So that's my setup. I am using an Atlas bipod. I've kind of been jumping between the Atlas and the Accutac, but I found that the Atlas, although the Accutac is a bit more stable, I've got that wide Accutac that I can use for like long range shooting when I'm at the range. The Atlas is a little bit more friendly for walk and stalk type hunting, which is what I do. It's lighter, I can put it in my pocket, and there's no accuracy difference between this and the Accutac. I do have to be a bit more careful with, the cant. This one is a bit more flexible, whereas the Accutac I can lock down, but I'm very happy with the Atlas, and I feel like I can manage it quite well, so I'm very happy with that. Big thing that I added was when I was doing my Oxwagon Diary series recently, I was doing some target shooting and filming the rifle in slow motion, and a lot of you picked up that there was a lot of barrel flex. And I'd actually looked at it and I realized, actually, you guys are right. It looks like something's not right. And when I went back and checked, I discovered that the factory bottom metal, it was so flimsy that the action bolts were actually pulling straight through these washers here. And so I could never get the action bolts to the torque that I wanted it. They kept pulling themselves through. So I decided to just do a complete overhaul. I sent my rifle into Bullet Central Africa, and they've got really, really well-trained gunsmiths there that you can trust 100%. They're awesome guys. And what they did was they bedded my action into the stock again, and they did some work where they added this Atlasworx bottom metal, which I bought from G&G Varminting. They attached this on, they fitted it, they bedded everything down. It's absolutely 100% solid now. And what I did was I bought the Atlasworx bottom metal that can take the Accuracy International magazines. The reason I did that, this magazine is horrendously expensive. I think it cost me like 2,000 something rand, which is, I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's very expensive compared to like the Ticker magazine. But the Ticker magazine was just giving me endless nightmares. Where is it? This one. I had to load ammo that was very, very short. You have to basically modify your magazine a lot to get your ammo to fit in here. Ticker magazine is awesome if you get a Varminting caliber like the 22-50, but I just had big problems with it in my rifle. This one allows me to hold 7 rounds, which is fantastic. It's solid, it's never going to break, and with the new bottom metal I can now fit this in no problem, so that's awesome. I replaced the trigger with a Bix & Andy trigger. Bix & Andy probably make the best triggers in the world. In fact, I'm pretty sure they do. I originally had a Timney trigger on here, this is the factory Ticker trigger. I replaced the factory Ticker trigger with a Timney trigger, which was great. It was a step up from the factory trigger. But then I met the guys from Bullet Central in the US at SHOT Show, and they offered to give me a Bix & Andy trigger, and that blew me away. I knew it was good, but when I actually got behind the rifle and I felt the trigger for myself, it absolutely blew me away. It's such a huge step up from anything else I've ever had, and it gives me so much confidence in that I know exactly when my trigger is going to break, but also it's very, very light. It's something that's not too light that you can't get used to it, I've actually set it a bit harder for hunting because, you know, if you've got buck fever, you don't know when the trigger release is going to go off. But I'm very, very happy with this setup, and I'm pretty sure that my groups have improved since I've got this trigger. I can feel a definite difference. Single stage, but absolutely insane. It just breaks so crisp. I wish I could show you, but it's very hard to explain on a video how a trigger feels. I guess you just have to try it for yourself. So that's that. What else can I show you? Yep, you'll know that I have been using this beast of a Sustac suppressor. You'll have seen it in my Whidden Dies videos. It's got something called the Cobra brake on the front, which is a big old muzzle brake. This thing is awesome. It reduces recoil significantly with the big muzzle brake on the end. It makes the rifle very, very quiet. It actually helps with muzzle flip as well, because the extra weight on the end of the muzzle, it's extra inertia, so you're not going to have as much flex on the muzzle with this big old silencer on it. However, you can imagine this on the end, it's very, very long, and it makes the rifle very front heavy. And when you're talking walk and stalk hunting, it kind of defeats the point of a lightweight rifle. You know, I might as well just get a 338 Lapua with a muzzle brake on it, you know, if you're going to use something as heavy as this. So I'm still planning to use this, and if I'm planning to do hunting that doesn't require much walking up and down mountains, I will probably use this. But what I did get was an Axis Precision Works brake. This is the Raptor 5, I believe. Yes, Raptor 5. So it's got the 5 ports on either side. It's incredibly well made. It's made here in South Africa. I'll put a link down below. But this reduces your recoil significantly more than if you didn't have it. To be honest with you, the Sustac actually reduces recoil quite a bit more, but what you get with the Axis Precision Works brake is something very lightweight and very short that reduces recoil, which is what you want. So if I'm going to be doing hunting that requires just 1 or 2 shots where I don't have to worry about spooking the animals too much, and I need to hike up and down mountains, this will absolutely be my choice. And Pitt from a channel called Pit Skit or Impact Shooting, he actually works with Axis Precision Works, and he was kind enough to laser engrave my channel symbol on top. So I'll get a close up there and show you, but yeah, it's an awesome brake, and I'm very, very happy to have it. Thanks, Pitt. That thing's awesome. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I've got a level here on my scope from Accuracy First. I've used a lot of levels on scopes before, but this one is by far the best. It's got all your indicator lines here. It's kind of got a curve to it, and it just helps you to get everything lined up without any cant from side to side, which is incredibly important when shooting long range. So that's awesome. Also got this one from G&G Varminting, so you can find it there. I'll put a link down below. But that's my setup. What else did I want to talk to you about? Ammo. Okay, I had to make up my mind here, because you have a few options when you're choosing what to load up. I didn't want to load factory ammo. I wanted to shoot something that I can reload myself. Firstly, it's a cost saver, but also I like to fiddle around, and it helps me to fine tune my loading and get nice and accurate. The biggest thing for me was choosing the right bullet. Now, when I hunted with Nico a couple years ago doing the Vapor Trail series, Nico was using I think it was a 178 grain Hornady ELD-M. I was very, very impressed with the terminal performance of the ELD-M. It's a match bullet, but it expands very, very nicely. It doesn't shatter like many other bullets do, especially at long range. It's quite a controlled expansion, and it put those animals down very, very nicely. But with a 26-inch barrel as opposed to the 24-inch factory barrel, I knew it could go a bit heavier, and heavier for long range is generally better. You know, you can always predict the drop if you have a slow-moving bullet, but the side-to-side movement from the wind can be a problem. So I went with a 208 grain Hornady ELD-M. I know Nico now on his ticker, he's got a 30-inch Bartlein barrel, and he's shooting, I think, 225 grain Hornady ELD-M, which is much heavier than this, but that's a proper long-range crazy setup. I wanted to be somewhere in the middle, so 208 grain ELD-M. I'm shooting this at 2750 feet per second, which is very respectable, and I think this bullet's going to perform very well. I've actually haven't shot anything with it yet aside from a monkey, which completely exploded. But I'm hoping to get some hunting in at the end of April if this whole coronavirus thing calms down, and you'll see some footage of that. So I'm using a 208 grain ELDM. I have to seat it quite deep to fit it in the magazine, but that's okay. No real drawback there. I'm using Norma brass. I would have liked to use Lapua, but honestly, there's not a huge difference between Norma and Lapua. I do also have an annealing machine, so I can just anneal this brass perfectly from the start. It works very well. In terms of powder, I'm using Vitavuri N560. Many people know N560 is the powder to use for 300 WSM, and it's working flawlessly. Very happy with that. And then obviously in terms of reloading, you've got to choose your dies and all of that. So my friend Nico, who I've been speaking about this whole time, who I did the Vapor Trails series with, he actually imports and sells dies made by a company called Whidden. John Whidden is like one of the best shooters in the US, and he started making his own reloading dies. And I bought a die set from Nico. It's a competition seating die with the micrometer on it. Very, very nice. There's also a full length die. I decided I didn't want to do just neck sizing or anything like that. I decided I wanted to go full length just from a hunting perspective of everything seating nicely. And if you set up your die quite well, you know, you get your head spacing right and everything. There's nothing wrong with a full length die. So I went with a full length die, and then the whole kit does also come with a comparator gauge as well. So very, very happy with that. If you want to order Whidden Dies, you can get them through Nico. I'll put his details down below. And that's pretty much it. I do want to quickly mention that I do have plans to go hunting with this rifle. I'm very, very excited for that. The plan was to go out end of April with Nico at his own farm in KwaZulu-Natal, film some hunting there. I don't know if that'll still happen because of this whole coronavirus thing. It might be that the lockdown is still on then. And even if it's not on, I might decide to play it safe and not go. However, I know Nico, and I think we can probably make a plan to postpone if that doesn't work out. Either way, I really want to get some hunting done. I want to film some hunting with the scope, with this rifle, get it on camera for you. I'm really keen to show you. And then I've also got plans for other things. While I'm cooped up here, we can do stuff like the Airgun Ballistics 101 series, which I actually need to finish. So I've got another 19 days to do that. And then possibly a reloading series. And then I've also done a whole bunch of tutorial videos for element optics, videos such as, you know, introduction to this scope, the Nexus, what's in the box, overview of the scope. Done a video on how to mount the scope to your rifle correctly. I've done a video on how to set the zero stop. I've done a video on how to zero your rifle correctly. I don't know if you guys want to see that or not. I'm going to put it on the Element Optics YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. I'll put a link down below to that as well. But I'm thinking of actually putting it on my channel as well, because my channel has a bigger reach, and I feel like those kind of topics, those educational topics, are quite useful for the general public, even if you don't want to buy an Element scope. So you guys let me know if you want to see that. Please let me know down below, and I'll make sure to upload those to this channel as well. If you don't want to see it, that's okay. Those of you who do want to see it can just go to the Element Optics YouTube channel, and I'm going to be putting those up hopefully within the next week or two. So that's going to be awesome. And with that, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're excited to see this gun in action. I do want to remind you guys, please be safe. This virus is not a joke. I know, because I've been to, in the past few months, I've been to China, I've been to Europe, I've been to, you know, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and when I was there, that was just before it became an epidemic. So I saw the effects of people getting sick. I was actually getting pretty nervous when I was there. I hope I'm not sick. I still haven't been around. I haven't been back long enough to know whether I'm contagious or not, whether I've picked up the virus or not. But I do want to tell you guys, please rather play it safe. Stay at home. We will get through this. We will get through the other side. And when we do, we can go out and shoot again. So stay safe, guys. Stay inside, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.